Check us for all of our tasers, handcuffs, make sure everything's working, flashlights, make sure we have everything for the shift. And then we'll march over to the LEC PMO around 1945, 1950, about 2000. We'll have a guard mount class. I'm going over paperwork we need for the shift, briefing from the last shift, what happened, what to look out for, and then PMCS in our vehicle, make sure there's what scratches are there, make sure our lights and sirens are working, the cameras are working, the basic stuff of our vehicle, and then we'll hit the road about 2100 and we'll start patrolling.
As we age, nutrition plays an important role in health. You can help improve blood pressure, fight infection, and lower your risk of heart disease by eating these superfoods: fish, fruits and vegetables, dairy products like yogurt, cheese, and milk, nuts and beans, and whole grains. Stay healthy, stay happy. For more information, contact the Aging and Disability Resource Center, pierceadrc.org.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order this Tuesday, October 29th meeting of the Pierce County Council. The time is 3:01 p.m. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Campbell.
Here.
Councilmember Kruger.
Here.
Councilmember Denson.
Here.
Councilmember Herrera.
Here.
Councilmember Hitchin.
Here.
Councilmember Morrell.
Here.
Councilmember Mello.
Here.
You have 7 members present.
We have all 7 members present and a quorum. Item number 3 is our pledge of allegiance to the flag, our moment of silence, and our land acknowledgement. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag led by Vice Chair Campbell, followed by a moment of silence dedicated to our men and women serving overseas in the military, and then the land acknowledgement read by Michael A. Sisson, Tribal Veterans Representative of the Puyallup Tribe of Indians. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hatslahale, Michael Sisson T. Dista. Sapil Quequidi T. Fasilbus Dista, Tubshanade T. Swayalap Chet. Good morning. My name is Michael Sisson. My Native American name is Soft Thunder. I am a Puyallup tribal veteran. I acknowledge that we are on the traditional homelands of the Nisqually, Puyallup, Squaxin, Steilacoom, and Muckleshoot tribes. These Salish tribes have lived on and stewarded these lands since the beginning of time and continue to do so today. We recognize that this land acknowledgement is one small step toward true allyship, and we commit to uplifting the voices, experiences, and histories of the indigenous people of this land and beyond. We are Salish peoples throughout the Puget Sound area, one of the many Twilshutzid-speaking tribes of the Northwest. Prior to European settlement, our people lived in villages from the foothills of Tacobed, Mount Rainier, along the rivers, creeks, and prairies, and shores and islands of Puget Sound. While the term land acknowledgement is fairly recent, the practice of acknowledging the land and the people who have stewarded it since time immemorial is an indigenous practice. Here in Puget Sound, our people have a protocol of asking permission to come ashore. When our ancestors traveled by canoe to another territory, it was our protocol to stop offshore to announce our arrival, offer respect to the lands and the people, and ask permission to come ashore. Our people continue this practice today, both on and off the canoe. In practicing a land acknowledgement, you are recognizing that the land that you're standing on is stolen. We recognize the people and communities that cared for and lived on the lands since the beginning of time. We acknowledge their stewardship, their forced removal, and their continued fight to live on their ancestral lands. Further, in practicing a land acknowledgement, we are committing to being a steward of that land. It is not solely about acknowledging the caretakers, but also the land itself. Each of us as human beings has a responsibility to care for the land. We must respect the land, the waters, the plants, and the animals. Without them, we would not be able to live on the land to begin with. One cannot offer empty words of acknowledgement. These acknowledgements are a commitment to the ongoing work of uplifting Native communities and protecting the land and resources that sustain us. Hoyaf Ched.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for being with us and joining us, especially later on in our agenda, where we will be proudly proclaiming the month of November 2024 as Native American and Alaska Native Heritage Month. So thank you so much for gracing us with your presence and doing the land acknowledgement for us today. We're at section 4, which is the approval of our agenda. Are there any objections to approving today's agenda as presented? Seeing no objection, the agenda is approved. On today's council agenda, there will be multiple opportunities for public comment. On the consent agenda, you may provide comment on any final action item. This does not include items placed on the consent agenda simply for introduction and scheduling. On today's consent agenda, there are several items on final action, which include one set of minutes for final approval, 2 appointment resolutions, 1 grant for approval, a motion authorizing a settlement, and a motion authorizing payment to the State Association of Counties. Then under Section 8 of the agenda, we will take public comment on each resolution individually. And finally, under Community Forum, there will be an opportunity to address the council on any topic that is not up for final action on today's agenda. For information on the rules for public participation, please review the bottom of page 1 of today's agenda. That brings us to Section 5, our consent agenda. Does any member wish to pull any item from the consent agenda? Vice Chair Campbell for a motion.
All right, I'm receiving word that we don't have any of our appointees in the room. So with that, I will move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Second. It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as presented. We're going to open up for a public hearing on all of these final action items on our consent agenda. Does any member of the public wish to provide comment on our consent agenda? We'll invite you to the podium, starting here in council chambers. Not seeing anybody rush to the podium. Mr. Weinsbury, anybody in the Zoom room?
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comment on any final action items, press the raise hand icon on Zoom or star 9 on your telephone keypad. And there are no hands at this time, Chair.
With no hands, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the council. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on the consent agenda?
Councilmember Krueger.
Aye.
Councilmember Denson. Aye. Councilmember Herrera.
Aye.
Councilmember Hitchin.
Aye.
Councilmember Morrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Mello.
Aye.
The results of the roll call vote is 7 ayes and 0 nays.
On a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays, the consent agenda is adopted. Section 6 is messages from the executive and other county elected officials. We have one message from the executive transmitting the following ordinance, which was approved and signed on October 22nd, 2024, and it was ordinance 2024-552. This is an ordinance of the Pierce County Council vacating a portion of 100th Street East in Pierce County. That brings us to Section 7, proclamations, recognitions, awards, and presentations. As we indicated earlier, the Council is quite proud to proclaim the month of November 2024 as Native American and Alaskan Native Heritage Month here in Pierce County. We have some very special guests with us today. Thank you for gracing us with your time and your presence. They include the Honorable Annette M. Bryan, Puyallup Tribal Council member. We'd ask all of you to join us at the podium and surround Councilmember Bryan, please. We have Rosalind McLeod, a project planner with the Puyallup Tribe of Indians. Michael Sisson, tribal veterans representative of the Puyallup Tribe, who read our land acknowledgement earlier. Leander Yahtzee, tribal relations liaison with the University of Washington, Tacoma. Bettina Gassi, small business owner here in our community. Tatum Sumpty, a student at the University of Washington, Tacoma. Ho Zoe G. Matheson Margulies, also a student at the University of Washington, Tacoma. And we're also joined by Sarah Colleen Sotamish. If you can all join us at the podium, we would love to have you as Vice Chair Campbell reads this proclamation into the record. Please come forward. Vice Chair Campbell.
Thank you. It is my honor to read a proclamation of the Pierce County Council and Executive proclaiming November 2024 as Native American and Alaskan Native Heritage Month in Pierce County, Washington. Whereas Pierce County sits on the ancestral lands of the, and I have the Twillashutsi words here, but I will not butcher the language, the Puyallup, Muckleshoot, Nisqually, Squaxin Island tribes who reside, have lands, or have treaty-protected rights to water and other resources in Pierce County. And I'd like to add the Steilacoom tribe, which, while not federally recognized, are peoples of our county. Whereas exercising treaty rights and practicing cultural practices are integral to strengthening the deep connections of Native peoples and their traditional territory, with tribes continuing to be environmental stewards by protecting and enhancing fisheries, habitat restoration, and other conservation efforts. And whereas Pierce County recognizes tribal sovereignty and the unique differences in cultural identities of each tribe, Pierce County is committed to respecting each tribe's sovereignty, their treaty rights, and working government to government with tribal leadership for the benefit of our region and the preservation of our shared environment. And whereas tribes continue to provide community and economic boon for our state and region by adding billions to the state economy, generating millions in state and local taxes, and contributing millions to local charitable contributions. And whereas Native peoples contribute to the rich history and culture of the United States, including the Puget Sound region, and continue to practice their cultures, traditions, and languages through activities like the annual canoe journey, powwows, and other cultural practices. And whereas Pierce County acknowledges and celebrates the importance and immeasurable contribution by our tribes to make our state and Pierce County better and stronger, while recognizing historic injustices through actions by the U.S. government. These include forcing children into boarding schools for the purposes of erasing Native languages and cultures and forced removal from their ancestral lands, exemplified by breaking of treaties that promise to protect their treaty rights and homelands. And whereas Pierce County Council and the executive commit to uplifting the voices and stories of the Native communities and continually strive to work towards true government-to-government partnership, this begins by standing shoulder to shoulder with tribes to face the challenges of today, including but not limited to missing and murdered Indigenous women and people and human trafficking. And whereas it is wholly fitting to honor and celebrate Native people during the same month as Veterans Day, recognizing that many Native American and Alaskan Natives have served honorably and with distinction in the U.S. Armed Forces at 5 times the national average and in every conflict since the American Revolution. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed on this, the 29th day of October, by the Pierce County Council and Executive that November 2024 is recognized as Native American and Alaskan Native Heritage Month, and that all residents are encouraged to honor, celebrate, and learn more about our tribe's histories, traditions, and customs, and way of life.
Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, Vice Chair Campbell. Councilmember Bryan, would you lead us off?
Yes, thank you. Hoxlahale, Annette Bryan, Seatsta, Spiala Pubs, Chud. Good day. Honorable friends and relatives, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and I want to thank the Pierce County Council and Pierce County Executive for acknowledging the Puyallup people on our Puyallup traditional homelands. We share a lot of boundaries, we share a lot of issues, and I think working together makes us all stronger. And I see a lot of friends here, and I think those friendships are valuable and help us when we have hard conversations that we will and have had. I do see one space along your wall for the Puyallup tribal flag, so something we ask you to consider. We can gladly bring one for you, and would be honored to have it here on our homelands. And I'm really excited today to be here, and I know we have some Puyallup tribal members who want to speak as well. And I just appreciate you recognizing our sovereignty. We have an historic land claim settlement here in this area that is very unique. We have a lot of unique features as a sovereign nation. And so we have to work on a government-to-government basis. And the more we can do that, the more we can better serve our whole communities as a collective. So with that, I will say, Hoyevchud, I am finished. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Bryan. We'd love to open it up to other distinguished guests who are here to provide remarks. We're being so polite. The microphone that you had, we're grabbing it for you, Michael, so that those at home can hear you properly.
Hatslahale, Michael Sisson Dista Tubshedit Spoyalapop Ched. Good day, my name's Michael Sisson. I'm a Puyallup tribal veteran. County Council, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here to speak. I'd like to especially thank you for the opportunity to do the land acknowledgement, as that's very important, as I was saying before the meeting. As I said, I'm a Puyallup tribal veteran, and as a tribal veteran within this community, we do a lot of things. We do powwows, we do color guards, we do interviews for school, social media things. I just got asked to do that this morning from Franklin Pierce High School. We march in the Veterans Day Parade and in the Daffodil Parade. And we, support the community as much as we can. And we're honored to do that. Some of the things we've done recently is we had 2 tribal veterans go to France for the 80th anniversary of D-Day. They also attended in 2019 for the 75th anniversary. Last year on Veterans Day, we went to Washington, D.C. for the dedication of the National Native American Veterans Memorial. We get to go out to do lots of things, and we really appreciate having the opportunity to represent not only our tribe, but the county as well. We've Ched. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your service. Other guests?
Hello, everyone. My name is Bettina Shokwagisi, and I'm honored to stand before you as a member of the Puyallup tribe and part of the Satayakan family. For those who don't know, Shokwa means sugar in Puyallup tribal language, and in Canada's First Nations language, it means little monster. But don't worry, I'll be sticking to the sugar side. As we celebrate Native American Heritage Month, I want to share a piece of our story that goes beyond the surface. Our tribe, our community, is more than just a casino or a smoke shop. On November 11th, 1975, my mom, Vicki Gord, sorry, I had to totally point you out, opened what started off as a small convenience store located on 72nd Waller Road in Tacoma, where we sold cigarettes, chew, and jewelry. Thunderbird has since grown into something special, something woven into the fabric of this community. Today, Thunderbird still owned and operated by my mom, my sister, and me. This coming year, we're excited to celebrate our 50th anniversary. And don't worry, there will be a big party. Y'all are invited. In 1990, we opened up a bar and a restaurant. And let me tell you, we have people who swear by our breakfast. Our restaurant has become a place of people love to gather, whether for an early morning meal or a lively night of karaoke. A few years later, in 1994, we turned one of our manager's visions into reality and opened a cigar store. Today, it has West Coast's largest selection of cigars, carrying brands that only about 35 other stores nationwide carry. This is no ordinary business. It's a one-stop shop for breakfast, cigars, a drink, karaoke, darts, candy, Native American gifts, and even fireworks. We've been running our seasonal fireworks stand for many years, and it's a huge part of what makes us unique in the area. Over the years, I've been lucky to work alongside people who have truly shaped my life. One of our employees has been with us for 32 years. I've known him since I was a kid. He's taught me more than a few life skills along the way. Now, don't tell my mom, but when she was out of town, I may have had a couple parties, and he's the one who taught me how to patch up holes in the wall. Thunderbird has brought people together across generations. I often meet customers who say, I've known you since you were a kid. They shopped here with their families and now bring their own children. Thunderbird is more than just a business. It's a cornerstone in the community, a place where generations come together. And as we've grown, we've made it a priority to give back. We've donated to charities, supported countless families, and every year we provide school supplies for our employees' children. Thunderbird offers full medical benefits and a 401k, benefits you won't find many convenience stores, bars, or even restaurants. With our team, we celebrate milestones like anniversaries, birthdays, children's graduations, and sporting events together, because it's not just work, it's family. Today, our Thunderbird family is made up of approximately 60 employees and has included over 4,000 people through the years. So as we honor Native American Heritage Month, remember that our tribe is essential to this community. We are more than just a casino or a store. We are neighbors, friends, and family. Our roots run deep, and we're here for the long haul, serving, supporting, and celebrating life with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you for kicking off True Confessions. So everyone who speaks after you has to do True Confessions like you did.
I was nervous my first time talking in public.
You did great. Thank you for being here to help accept this proclamation. Any other of our guests wish to provide remarks on this really meaningful day? We'll welcome you to the podium.
All right. Got to enlarge my writing here. So good afternoon, everyone. Council, thank you for your invitation to be here. Yate she legander yazi yinishe. Jodich eating shlan toy glini bashishin. Senchikin dashache tabahan dashanala. That's who I am as a Navajo. I do want to recognize that I am a visitor of these lands. I have, my home is down in Arizona, which I will talk about in my few words. So this month we honor Native American Heritage Month, recognizing and celebrating the profound contributions that Native American tribes and individuals have made throughout our nation's history. This celebration, initiated by leaders like Jerry C. Elliott High Eagle in 1976, endorsed by President George H.W. Bush in 1990, and reaffirmed by President Barack Obama in 2009, reflects a collective acknowledgement of the strength and resilience of Native people have demonstrated over centuries. But while we celebrate, we also remember. We remember that our ancestors' path has not been easy. Since 1492, our people have remained steadfast, holding to our heritage, culture, and beliefs despite the forces of settler colonialism and cultural genocide. These forces sought to strip us of our unique spiritual ways, our ways of life passed down with great care by our ancestors. Yet here we stand today, grounded in who we are and where we come from. I'm proud to say that I'm a Navajo, a Diné, born and raised in Fort Defiance, Arizona on the Navajo Reservation. At a young age, I was immersed in our traditions, becoming a powwow dancer at 5 years old and growing up rooted in our traditional Navajo ways, the practices of Native American church, and the teachings of a Catholic faith. I'm the descendant of strong, proud Navajos, grandparents who served our people in roles like tribal councilman, U.S. Marine Corps Navajo code talker, and grandmothers whose hands were gifted in weaving and sheep herding, whose social, emotional skill was superb, and mental resilience was tougher than anyone can imagine. My parents married over 50 years, embodied sacrifice, hard work, and unity, ensuring that their children had the chance to attend the only college preparatory school on the reservation at the time. I thrived with my mother's words, and it's pretty common. Taho ijit ego. Taho ijit ego instructs, and it says that you live up to all your efforts, your hard work, and your determination. So I stand here today because of them, because of their sacrifices, struggles, resilience, and the love and joy they found in life. It is their lives I celebrate in honor with my own. As a representative of the University of Washington, Tacoma, my role at the university is to serve as their tribal relations liaison. Upon accepting the position in June, the university created an Office of Indigenous Engagement. In this role, I'm committed to supporting Native and Indigenous students, amplifying their voices, and ensuring their visibility on our college campus and beyond. Including our students' voices is crucial, not just to honor their perspectives, but because their insights and leadership will carry on traditions and culture forward. Their visibility reminds us all of our continued presence and impact. I would like to read you our initial mission and vision. The Office of Indigenous Engagement at University of Washington, Tacoma is dedicated to furthering meaningful relationships with tribal communities, empowering Native and Indigenous students, faculty, and staff, and advancing scholarship rooted in both traditional and Western knowledge systems. Our mission and our vision bullets focused on honoring the land, culture, and sovereignty of Native peoples while creating pathways for student success, leadership, and research. With that being said, thank you for inviting us. I'm supposed to have my students here, but I think they got lost along the way. Thank you for inviting us to your meeting as a precursor to November's honoring of Native American Heritage Month, and for acknowledging the journey and the contribution of our people, the people here within the Pacific Northwest and here in the Pierce County area. And I hope that our commitments and our contributions continue to shape our community. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other guests wish to provide any comments? I don't see any, so I'm going to open it up to... Oh, I'm sorry. Sarah. Sarah Colleen, please come forward.
I don't know if I'm a guest, but I'm here. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a good day to be Native. My name is Sarah Colleen Sotamish. I'm Senior Counsel for Tribal Relations, a member of the executives team. I'm also a citizen of the Quinault Nation and its first tribal member attorney. I come from one of the 5 traditional hereditary chiefs families and descendant of treaty signers of the Treaty of 1855. I'm very pleased to be here to say a few words in support of this proclamation. I want to thank Pierce County Council very much for making this happen, and thank you, Paul Herrera and Marty Campbell, for being the sponsors. I'd like to highlight, maybe give my own version, a couple of the provisions in the proclamation and give you a little history lesson, if I can be allowed to do that. Yesterday, for the first time in history, that the federal government has formally apologized for what happened, for what they did. President Biden issued a formal apology for the United States Indian boarding school assimilation policy that caused abuse and death of children, loss of culture, loss of language and tradition, loss of life, to name a few. And as he said, this is only the first step. This is an important day. This policy spanned 150 years, 1819 to 1969. 417 federal Indian boarding schools were founded and run, 15 in Washington State, a couple even in our area, Pierce County, Tacoma. Tens of thousands of Native children entered the system. Nearly 1,000 documented deaths, though the number is likely to be higher. Many people have never heard of this, the stolen children. We need to know the good, the bad, the truth, we need to remember and learn from history. A little sidebar, one of the last Navajo code talkers passed away this week at 107 years old, using the Dene language as code in World War II saved a lot of lives. It's interesting that this native language that was forbidden was later used strategically to help win the war. And know that there were code talkers in both World War I and World War II. And there were many more tribes who had code talkers, probably at least a dozen. And I'm proud to say that Quinault had 2 code talkers in World War II. What our ancestors went through makes us stronger and more resilient. Some have hinted that when President Biden made the formal apology, that it was maybe a political maneuver. It doesn't matter to me. It went straight to my heart. It was meant for me and my ancestors. My dad was a boarding school survivor, excuse me, here at the Cushman School. He first was sent there to be treated for tuberculosis, which he contacted from his older sister, who was sent home from an Oregon Indian school called Chemawa to die. My grandmother had 12 children that we know of, maybe 13, my grandparents. 8 of them we can't account for why they died. But my dad was the only survivor. When he came home from boarding school, there were no children. It's personal to me. I have no aunts, uncles, or cousins because of this. But I want to say we're still here. We still practice our rich culture, our sacred traditions, our native languages, which have been passed down for centuries. I wanted to highlight a couple of positive things that we are doing here in Pierce County. In 2018, we initiated tribal training, a one-day tribal training. And we have been providing this one-day tribal training, which covers the history, culture, federal policies of tribes, to name a few. And we have had over 650 Pierce County employees who have gone through the program. And we have recently, very recently, in September maybe, how time flies, opened up our brand new Indian Child Welfare Court. We're the fourth county in Washington State to have an Indian Child Welfare Court. And we recognize that we had a lot of natives here in Pierce County, many from Alaska and across the United States. And I am pleased to have played a small part in that. I'm excited about today because I think, to me, it's very meaningful. Let us continue to work in partnership with our tribes. They have so much to teach us, so much to share with us, and so much to contribute to Pierce County. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Executive Danmeyer, I think you're our final speaker before we open it up to council for their remarks. Executive Danmeyer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members of the council. For the record, Bruce Danmeyer, had the privilege of serving the residents of Pierce County as their executive. This is one of the areas that I have a great deal of pride in, we have made significant strides in strengthening our government-to-government relationships with our local tribes, and probably more importantly, existing as partners as we kind of jointly steward this wonderful place that we all call home. And the ways that relationship, those partnerships are much wider and deeper than they were 8 years ago. When I think of how we have learned and are working with our local tribes to protect our environment, things like partnering with all the local tribes to prioritize our fish passage barrier removals. When I think about the work we're doing at Swan Creek, the condemnation of the Electron Dam disaster with the AstroTurf, when I think about our mobile pump out program and our work that we're doing at Swan Creek and quality, water quality throughout our community, all of those we're doing kind of in partnership and in collaboration with our local tribes. And when I think about how we are taking care of our communities, I think about the work that we've been doing in kind of some of the most tragic areas, and I'm alternatingly proud and saddened by the fact that we have been partnering on murdered and missing Indigenous women, and that has grown to murdered and missing Indigenous people. And that right now on the Pierce County website, we feature the 15 local murdered and missing Indigenous people from our community. But I'm also thankful for the partnership that we do with our tribes around homelessness, around caring for those who are suffering from addiction or mental illness. And I'm particularly proud of our local tribe, particularly the Puyallups, who are stepping up in a new and just a very strong way around health care, making sure that the tribal members have access to good health care and unique and innovative health care, and that all the folks from Pierce County have access to living healthier, better lives. I am proud of our partnership. I'm particularly proud of our Puyallup tribe for their strong economic diversification, that it is about hospitality, absolutely, and including gaming, but it is also about port terminals and significant retail establishments, that it's about a new restaurant on the waterfront called Woven. And one thing that I'm particularly excited about is the Kenmore Air Service that the Puyallup tribe brought to the waterfront in Tacoma, that everybody can participate in. I am particularly proud, as Sarah Colleen mentioned, of our Indian Child Welfare Court. I think it marks an appropriate bookend to the tragedy that was Indian boarding schools, where we were, as a nation at that time, the policy was to try to strip the culture away from Native children. Now in our Indian Child Welfare Court, we're going the other way. We see their culture as an asset to helping them get onto a stronger, better, healthier, brighter future. So that's very, very positive. And I'm excited about the work that we have done and are doing to help preserve our tribe's cultural resources, and recognizing that is also part of our heritage as well. And that is really significant. From that, I know that right now we have a new cultural resources policy that is out for consultation to our local tribes. And because of that work, we've got an archaeologist for the first time, an archaeologist working for Pierce County to help us do that. But it doesn't stop there. When we talk about, I appreciate the fact that our local tribes are sharing their culture with everybody in Pierce County. I think about the canoe journey. I think about the powwows that I have been able to attend. I think about how honored I have been to march into powwows with Michael Sisson and other veterans as part of that, as they stand up for veterans in a way that I wish the rest of our community did. So they make our whole community better. And all this that has happened over the last 8 years or so didn't happen by accident. It happened through leadership and with a strong commitment to advancing it. And for that, I would like to personally thank and recognize Sarah Colleen Sotamish. Her leadership has been key, both in our policy development and in helping support our staff as they partner with local tribes. But in particular, she points out the fact that we've had over 650 county employees spend a one-day government-to-government training. Now, I've been to most of those, had the chance to do the introduction to most of them, and the Jameses do a tremendous job in sharing about kind of heritage that is really important and partnership and government-to-government relationships going forward. Something that's good for all of our employees to know and understand and appreciate, both so they can better serve our residents who are tribal, so they can better appreciate our colleagues who are tribal, and so they can better understand that our relationship with our local tribes is different than those with our cities or counties or even the state of Washington, that it is a sovereign relationship with a separate nation, and that we need to honor and respect that and recognize how that is different and how we need to interact differently with them. So Sarah Colleen, I just wanted to thank you. I want to raise my hands in appreciation for you for all of your work to make Pierce County better and to make our partnerships with our tribes stronger, deeper, and wider. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Executive Dannmeyer. We're going to bring it to the council now for remarks. We're going to start with Vice Chair Campbell.
Thank you. I apologize in advance. I'll probably be very emotional during this, but I'm excited that we're here. Executive Dannmeyer spoke on much of the economic development and much of the partnership that I was going to talk to, which is going to allow me to kind of focus a little bit more on some of the story of how we got here, because actually getting here to this wasn't easy. I want to thank Sarah Colleen for mentioning the formal apology from President Biden, calling it a blot on American history, and formally apologizing for the federal government's role in running boarding schools where thousands of Native children endured abuse, neglect, and eradication of their tribal entities. My family is one of those. My father, he's an enrolled tribal member of a tribe far east of here, far south of here, veteran himself, but never had a chance to teach the culture down to me because he never had a chance to have it taught to him. I'm always, whenever I visit their house, come in and the first sign you see is a big sign about this big that he has up, and with just a quote on it attributed to an unknown, unremembered American Indian. And the quote is, "They made us promises, more than I can remember, but they never kept but one. They promised to take our land, and they took it." And that has always resonated with me in what I bring to trying to understand what has happened to so many across this nation. And it's just difficult to really wrap your head around. Getting to this proclamation, I think this may be the third or fourth year that we've done it. I know we had a chance to do it before I left the Tacoma City Council once. Upon getting here, though, the first 2 years I couldn't do it because the then council chair didn't think it was appropriate. Finally got to where we could do this proclamation and continue to move forward from there to eventually adding a acknowledgement at our meetings. Again, not happening overnight, a lot of discussion, conversation to bring this council along. And I'd like to challenge this council up here, all of us. We had a request, can we get a flag? I've been trying for 6 years and been told there's a lot of bureaucracy in the way of that. We're pretty smart people. We should be able to find our way around it. And I'm hopeful that we can find a way to fly Puyallup flag, the land that we are on today traditionally, the 4 flags of the recognized tribes in the region, or any of the people who call this. We can find a way to get there. One of the programs I started at the city of Tacoma before I left was try to kick off street signs in dual language. Language program was starting up at the Puyallup tribe, and I said, imagine if those who are learning the language can see it used out in the community, how much more relevance that would bring. Didn't think it would take them 7 years to get that adopted at the city of Tacoma, but they just adopted at city of Tacoma to have signs that are on Puyallup tribal lands within the city of Tacoma to have both the local and then the Twi'lekshutsi language sign below it. And I want to challenge us. I will actually have a bill coming up later this, before the end of the year, to ask and to put in place or to kick off a process for Pierce County to adopt it so that tribal lands in Pierce County can also have dual language signs. Starting based upon what we've done in Puyallup, we've got something we can look at, and then reaching out to the other tribes as they want to, what they may or may not want to do on their tribal lands, but working with the Puyallup so that we recognize that the reservation lands are larger than Tacoma, and that opportunity should be afforded. God bless the Thunderbird. Thank you for being here. You guys have the best cinnamon rolls in the world. Love going there. And I say that as I'm just pausing. Sorry, kid. One of the greatest honors I had earlier this year was when my partner Catherine died. She was buried wrapped in a blanket provided by the Puyallup tribe with a blessing. And that is true partnership. Partnership that transcends anything we can do on this council. Because that is human partnership that I can't begin to tell you what it meant to me and our family. And I thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Kimball. Thank you for sharing that career of work and more work to come and those true partnerships. Councilmember Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. Speaking of partnerships and work in progress, I just want to highlight 2 things that we are doing as a state. The Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women People Task Force, which I have the honor of sitting on, is working on finalizing our reports. But in July of 2022 as a state, we said that we were going to start an alert system so that anyone who was Indigenous, who was missing, there would be an alert put out. And some of the technical things that would get in the way of making that happen, we set aside and said, there's a problem, there's a solution, we have the technology. And as of March of 2024, it had been used 94 times. 94 times. 80 of the people were recovered, and at least 11 were directly attributed to this alert system. And it's such a simple thing. We do this with the Amber Alert so that everybody knows there's a child that's missing. We do this with the Silver Alert every time there's an elderly person who's missing. And it basically calls the community together to say, somebody's in danger, please help. It's simple, we have the technology, it's working. So just that one win, and they're continuing as a group to see what are the other things we can do. And they're still in the works. There's learning as a state of how we fix some of those systems that were created. The other one is the Native and Strong hotline that's attached to the 988 programming that allows culturally and traditionally trained response when somebody's having a behavioral health crisis. You call 988, you identify as Indigenous, you push 4, I believe is the number, and you'll be connected with someone who has some level of training in traditional medicine, has some understanding of what's going on. Again, this is a way to recognize harm that's been done and ways we can start to fix some of those things by listening to the people of the many tribes about how we can be partners. And so those are 2 wins in the state of Washington that I think we're far ahead of some of our other states. And I just am honored to continue that work. Thank you. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you for highlighting that and serving on that leadership group for us. Councilmember Herrera.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being here, Honorable Councilmember Nat, Brian, and everybody for coming today. It's so important, like Councilmember Campbell was talking about it. We never talked about this stuff a few years ago, and we got to keep talking about it. And what Councilmember Hitchen was saying about murdered and indigenous women here, they have been unfairly targeted. I know this for a fact, working for the tribe for over 20 years in law enforcement, and seeing how the tribes as a community has been actually targeted by criminals who live in this area. And some of it has to do with the vulnerabilities and some of the assets that they may have. And the pure evil of it, and I guess I'm just talking about it because I've seen the human side of the problems that we have, that we all face today, and how it's amplified in Native American communities. And that goes with the drug epidemic, it goes with homelessness, and many other things. I've also seen how other governments will implement something, and it will it will affect the tribe, and they didn't even think about the tribes. 20 years ago, no one even called the tribe up and said, hey, we're going to implement this thing down the road, and it affected the community immensely. We've come a long way, as the executive talked about, how we talk to each other now, and how we take things into consideration before we make command decisions, because we are all neighbors. I think we're getting better at that. We can get better at that. But today we had several different type of tribal members here who do different things, and I think it's real important to highlight some of those things, because folks have been bombarded all their lives of what Native Americans are on TV, with movies, and many other things. Driving down the highway and all they see is the casino. They're much more than that. And I think today, having a proclamation talking about all the things of what Native Americans are in this community and other communities, and how it's not just the Puyallups that are here. There's many people here. We talked about the boarding schools that brought families from other tribes all over the country, all over the state, and they stayed here in Tacoma. And you know, working with the tribe, I've had friends with elders, and they've talked about not knowing their culture, not knowing their language. And in the 20 years, I have seen it bounce back. And it's because of, I think Sarah talked about the roots. The roots are deep, because it's amazing that a Puyallup tribe member can look out the bay over here and look out Mount Rainier over there, and it's the same mountain their ancestors looked at 4,000 years ago. Those roots are deep. And no matter what happened on the surface, where people try to cut away or hack away their culture or stuff like that, the roots are so deep, we're starting to see the leaves come out. And there's a human side to all of that. So I think it's really good that we're talking about it today, government to government, so we can understand each other better. And we can move together, equally yoked, pulling that wagon together, because we're all sharing the bay now. We're sharing that mountain. We're sharing the streams. We're sharing the salmon and many other things, and the businesses. So I can talk on and on and on. But I want to personally thank the Puyallup tribe for helping my family when I was deployed to Iraq for over a year. And they helped my family in ways that I cannot, it was such a tough time. That's just one small example of what they do in this community when it comes to philanthropy, giving money away to people, and to the community that they serve. So, Chair, thank you very much, and thank you, Puyallup tribe and all the tribes.
Thank you, Councilmember Herrera. Councilmember Denson.
Yes, thank you. I absolutely concur with all of the testimony. So I'll be brief here. The stories of the impacts of all of our tribes has been obviously just incredible. But as Councilmember Herrera was talking, I was remembering as a city council member, I think in Gig Harbor, one example of a partnership, and we're talking a lot about partnerships here between the city and the Puyallup tribe, that really spoke to the roots of the tribe and spoke to the ancestral lands of the Puyallup tribe in particular, and the benefit to all of us of making sure that these lands are still available for tribal members, including tribal children, to be able to visit and understand, how the flora and fauna of these lands are used in order to keep so many of these traditionals, whether it's medicinal or recreational opportunities alive. So that example is an area of Gig Harbor around North Creek, which is now called, and I'm probably not going to say this correctly, but I'll try, the Twalcuth Conservation Area. And the first piece in what has become 50 acres, the first piece of that was purchased thanks to the Puyallup tribe. And Gig Harbor had applied to Conservation Futures here at the county for some dollars to purchase this land, but we needed that 10% match. We needed $50,000, and the tribe jumped in like that. And I worked on the grant application with a member of the Puyallup tribe, Jennifer Keating. She and I wrote the grant together, and one of the things that she was so excited about and why she was so ready to go to the tribal council, thank you, Councilmember Bryant, about this was because of some of the specific plants that she found in this area that was on the original site of the Squabosh tribe, which is one of the familial tribes of the Puyallup folks. And she found all of the nettles, and there was a variety of other things. And I just remember Jennifer saying, right now we have to take so many of our tribal children, like, hours away to go into the woods and learn how to harvest some of these and learn what these different plants are for. She's like, we have it right here in the community on the site of one of the largest Puyallup villages in the area. And because of that, we were able to not only purchase that parcel, but now it's expanded to over 50 acres. And it's a beautiful partnership between the tribe and the city of Gig Harbor so that we can have interpretive signage through there, and we can show what was there and who the Squabosh people were. We've even got a voice box right there that will teach people how to pronounce some of these words. So I should be doing a better job of it. But the community just really embraced the idea that the tribal people that not only lived on those lands then, but live there still today, because we have lots of tribal members in our community, are part of our history and part of our present that make our area just the most amazing place to live and the most beautiful place to live. And that, together, all of our cultures and all of our traditions, can be celebrated and honored. And that's just one small example. And I know my colleagues have shared a lot of others about why this partnership and between our governments and why making sure we're keeping all this front of mind in all of our decisions, as Councilmember Herrera said, why it's so important. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Denton. I'll close by again being deeply grateful to all of our guests and friends, especially you, Councilmember Bryan, really all of our guests. Thank you for taking time out so that we can celebrate this next month and kick it off. All of my colleagues shared and many of our guests shared really meaningful, specific examples of being more than words on paper, more than just a land acknowledgement, more than just words, but true partnership. Vice Chair Campbell, I want to particularly recognize your long time public service and much of your public service in this regard, and really trying to advocate and move forward really meaningful, authentic things that go beyond words on paper. And sharing some of those specifics, but everyone who spoke today really shared meaningful, specific, and authentic ways where we are truly partnering together, and we're just so grateful for that. in the spirit of being more than an land acknowledgement, though words matter, and acknowledging our histories absolutely do matter and are very powerful, and I'm glad we do it here. One other partnership that was started several years ago is the partnership of what many of us call our Tide Flats sub-area plan. It's I'm giving Councilmember Bryan heart palpitations over there. This has been an incredibly long project, but speaking of working together, and was so pleased to invite in the Puyallup Tribe of Indians, and specifically the Puyallup Tribal Council, into that very important planning process of what does the future of our tide flats actually look like, and having truly meaningful consultation throughout every step of the process. And Tribal Council, led by its chairman and Councilmember Bryan, have been there every step of the way, providing incredibly valuable feedback, and everyone taking that feedback and incorporating it. But it's been I think an 8-year-long process. That too is coming to I think a positive culmination at the end of this year, because again, another example of really high quality, meaningful, and authentic work together, and not ramming something down people's throats just because you can't, but truly working together. Just another example of really important work being done together. So thanks for letting us celebrate this month. There's so much more to come with these true partnerships. And we would like to invite all of you to join us. So if a few of you could maybe come on up here with us, and a few of you here. We have so many of you, so we need to spread out. So Councilmember Bryan, maybe you join us up here, and some other guests can be in front of us, in front of the dais. Mr. Dominique's going to take a photo. we're going to take a 5-minute recess, so we'll be in recess for 5 minutes. We're back from our recess. Thank you again to all of those who helped celebrate Native American Heritage Month. Next on our agenda, I'd like to invite Pierce County's Auditor Linda Farmer to the podium to present on the 2024 election and provide other critical updates from the Office of the County Auditor. Madam Auditor, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. For this first section, I've brought with me Pierce County Elections Manager Kyle Hawk. He can answer all sorts of technical questions, and he is a bit of an expert on Washington election law. He's going to kill me for saying that. But before I start, I do want to thank you for your work on Indigenous matters. My brother and I were adopted from different families, and while I myself am not Native, he is a tribal enrolled member from Alaska, and I've seen his struggles over the years and some of the issues that he's gone through. And so from a personal perspective, I know that this work is not easy, but it is incredibly important, and I thank you for your persistence. One thing I've learned in a long life of government service is that persistence is quite often needed to get things done, so thank you. I'm going to move from one emotional topic to another. We had an attempt to damage an election through some ballot box vandalism, not here in Pierce County, but in Clark County and Multnomah County in neighboring Oregon. And in the wake of that, I wanted to assure you that our drop boxes are safe. In fact, our boxes are made locally. The majority of them are the very large kind. They're made of quarter-inch steel. They're over 1,000 pounds each. They're like tanks. All of our boxes have fire suppression systems in them. And you'll note that the damage to the ballots in Multnomah County was very minimal, and they have our box style and our fire suppression system style. And so I am comforted by the fact that if somebody tries anything, but nobody should try anything, that we will be able to handle it accordingly. I wanted to let you know that we've been in touch with every law enforcement agency and our partners who are with us in the drop boxes, the libraries and the city councils who own these drop boxes. We own them, but we partner with them, the land where they live. And just as a matter of fact, the city of Lakewood informed us yesterday that they are installing a surveillance camera so they can keep an eye on the box at Lakewood City Hall. And so I really appreciate their partnership. That's one of the busiest, the 10 busiest in our counties. And I know that all of our other partners are on alert and they're taking care of their boxes. And so I just wanted to assure you that everything, that it's safe to vote at a ballot drop box in Pierce County. I wanted to bring you some elections hot off the press numbers. As of today, our team just finished working, and it looks like we're at about 30% turnout, 30.27 to be precise. That's about 173,000 ballots. And to put that in perspective, it's behind our 2020 numbers, ahead of 2016 numbers. I don't really worry about being behind 2020 because that was such an anomaly. The election that year came in hot and heavy. A lot of people were voting. They were voting really early. And in other elections, they haven't done that, particularly here in Pierce County. Half our electorate likes to vote early. The other half likes to vote on election day. And so it doesn't really surprise me that we're not seeing those huge numbers. Anything I missed?
The new district report. What we've done this election is we're now reporting all districts turnout. We used to just do the districts in the election. So if you go to Pierce County Elections on our website, you can see every single district from your county council districts all the way down to Crystal Mountain Sewer District. So you'll be able to see turnout for all of them. That's new this election.
Awesome. Thank you. I'd like to address security because security is on the top of everyone's mind. So I want to briefly go through the top 7 ways that your ballot is historically secure. These are the things that we do every day to ensure the safety of the vote here in Pierce County. Pierce County Elections has 13 full-time professional state certified staff and up to 300 seasonal election workers that, yes, they are county workers, they are background checked. They are paid. We don't do volunteers. And so we have professionals on staff. Number 2, your ballots are GPS tracked from the ballot box to the election center. We can see where they're at all times, and there are a number of measures in place, making sure that they get here securely. Number 3, our vote by mail system is completely paper-based. We do not vote on machines. We have a full audit trail. Number 4, your identity is verified by your signature. We use a highly accurate automated signature recognition software, the same that banks have used for decades, and that verifies about 60% of our signatures. Staff who have been trained by the Washington State Patrol personally inspect the other 40% and anyone who has had their signature challenged. Signature verification happens in teams of 2. In fact, anyone who's been to our facility or seen how we work, everything is done in teams of 2. Challenged voters are called or emailed immediately. They also get a text message if they've opted in. Paper cure letters are sent no later than a day after we discover that their signature does not match. Batches from every signature verification team are audited every single day. And in addition to all of this, our full-time staff, like Kyle, review every single challenged signature that comes through our system. So your signature is who you are, and we want to make sure that that is truly you. Number 5, our ballots are processed in full view of our public viewing corridors and under the watchful eye of trained observers from major political parties and the League of Women Voters. Trained observers that are vetted by the political parties and the League have the opportunity to be in free range mode on our ballot processing floor if they go through the training. And so we encourage anybody who's interested in seeing our process up close and personal to contact their local political party. Number 6, votes are counted on 8 p.m. at 8 p.m. on election day, not a moment before, in our tabulation room that is not connected to the internet. It's the very first thing when you walk in our doors, our tabulation room. It's full of windows, and you can see the wires running underneath the ceiling. They're not obscured. That room and our entire building, as a matter of fact, is under 24/7 video surveillance for security purposes, and it's under strict badge and pin access. Only 7 people in the entire county are allowed access into that room, and none of those people are me. So if I want to go in there, I have to be escorted by another staff member. In fact, nobody is allowed to be in there by themselves. Again, the rule of 2. And last but not least, we conduct public audits of our equipment and processes before and after every single election. The small special elections at the beginning of the year, and then our bigger elections, the primary and the general. So those are things that we do every day. But I'm here also to tell you about additional measures that we've taken since last November. As you may recall, we were the first county to open a generic piece of mail that had white powder in it. We didn't know whether it was anthrax or fentanyl or what it was, but it shut us down, we evacuated, and we were pretty terrorized. We had over 100 staff on site that day, and it was pretty scary. It turned out to be baking soda, just something that you could have baked a cake with, but we didn't know that at the time. So we've taken a few measures to make sure that we are ready for things like that and for things that are not like that. Our new normal is to have an armed sheriff's deputy at the election center during busy ballot processing times at our bigger elections. And this is something that has made the staff feel more comfortable. It's made me feel more comfortable. We have their cruiser parked conspicuously out front, and it's been a very good move. We will have an increased law enforcement presence on November 4th and November 5th, covering the entire annex campus, because our vote center is going to move up to where my office is in the main annex, and ballot processing will continue at the election center. So we will have all sorts of security. We have used grant funds to add shatterproof and bullet resistance coating to both our exterior door windows and to the entire observation corridor. So if somebody comes in and decides to shoot at my staff, then it's at least going to slow them down and the staff can run to safety. We are working on, thanks to the county council, we are working on pending remodel of the facility, in which we are looking at higher levels of bulletproof security. I'm sad that we have to look at that level of security for something as fundamental to democracy as a ballot processing center, but we're going to take every precaution and make sure that we can keep everybody safe and the vote safe. We have also enhanced our mail handling protocols so that we can make sure that we have everything in place if we get some unknown substances. We've added Narcan and additional PPE. We've been meeting with the Department of Emergency Management, which just happens to be co-located right next to our election facility. And we've met with first responders throughout the county for the past 10 months in full-scale emergency planning mode. And we're planning for everything. As part of that work, we met with all the law enforcement jurisdictions in the county, and we've talked through the location of the voting facilities that they have in their area. Do they have drop boxes? Where are they? Do they have voting centers? Do they have a student engagement hub? Do they have a library that will host a points of assistance program on election day? So we've provided them with maps. We've given them this pocket guide, which was put together by the Committee for Safe and Secure Elections, which has all of the RCWs which are related to anything to do with voting or ballot processing, drop boxes, our ballot processing facility, student engagement hub, points of assistance, that sort of thing. We are experts in elections. We don't expect law enforcement to be experts in elections. And so we've had that conversation with them. They've been very happy to have that material. So we're excited. They're on notice. They're a wonderful partner, and our staff will be out at drop boxes on election day. Well, we're actually there every day. We empty our drop boxes every single day, including Sundays. But election day is going to be the big day. We've invited county salaried staff to come out and help us provide some extra eyes and ears at the drop boxes. Let's see. Are there any questions around security?
Thank you for pausing there, Madam Auditor, before you go on with the rest of your office's updates. Any questions for the Auditor about elections? Councilmember Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. Auditor Farmer, thank you for being here and for bringing your expert. My question is around the what if scenario. This was asked of me. What if my ballot did get destroyed? So it sounds like it'd be really hard, but how would I be able to then vote if something happened to my ballot in one of the ballot boxes?
I would encourage all your constituents and everyone to vote early, and then you can track your ballot through votewa.gov to see if it's received. We're picking them up every 24 hours right now. On election day, we'll pick up even more. If there happens to be a scenario where we have ballots destroyed, we will notify as many people high and wide as we can. Again, we're not foreseeing that, but if that does happen, it's better to vote early so you have a chance to remedy that if that were to occur.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Herrera.
Thank you, Chair. And my question pertains to overseas voting, particularly our military folk. I think there's a part where some can vote if they're eligible online. And I guess I was just asking the question on what that process is, because I can only imagine that the machines can only read a ballot. What's the process from an online vote to it getting transcribed either here or wherever, and it getting into a machine? And then also, because I had a constituent ask, their online vote was rejected or something like that, possibly, I don't know. What could those could be?
Military and overseas voters have the ability to return their ballot via email or fax. So they will access their ballot through votewa.gov, and then they can email it back to us. Again, you have to be serving in the military or a citizen, U.S. citizen residing overseas. When that's emailed back to us, we print it off, and we actually have to remake the ballot. We print it off together in a team of two, we remake it in a team of two, and a team of two reviews that remake to make sure it was done correctly, all with observers watching. So we can actually scan the document, because we can't just feed an email into our tabulation machine.
Thank you. And another question is, I don't know if it's an issue with the demographics of the voter, like the age, because we all know that if you're under 35 years old, most folks don't know how to do cursive, and young people aren't so great with their signature in some aspect. Do you see a higher number of younger folks getting rejected, and maybe even to that effect, older folks?
That's a great question. The average age of the Pierce County voter ends up being around 58, 59. The average age of the voter who has a signature that's challenged is 31, 32. Okay. It's pretty stark. Yeah. For the older voters, as their signature changes as you get older, we have lots of examples to kind of see how that change happens, and we can make that work. We can accept the signature. The younger voters, we have nothing. If this is your first election and you pre-registered at 16 at the DOL and now you're 19, probably doesn't match. So we rely on our tools, which is to call the voter if they gave us a phone number. But if you have children or 18-year-olds, they don't answer their phone. They don't answer their emails. They're not answering the mail, so we rarely rely on people in the house and other folks trying to educate them the best we can. It's a real struggle, and we don't like that.
So you are seeing that in some aspects?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's a problem through all 39 counties. It's not just exclusively on us. And it's not the cursive, it's the image has to match. If you want to make a smiley face your signature, you got to have the same eyebrows, the same nose, the same eyeglasses. It's got to be the same image every time. And that's what we're really training our people to look for. So even if it changes, but it's got to be the same thing. And yes, it's not good.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Denson.
I just have a story about this. I had a ballot a couple years ago that I guess was challenged, and I got a letter. Thank goodness I voted early because I got the letter, so I was able to do whatever I needed to do to verify it so that my vote counted. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank God I voted early because it may not have counted. So the other night I was sitting with my daughter. We're filling out our ballots, and I told her, make sure you take your time. Don't just scribble like I had done, which I don't do anymore. I said, make sure you're signing like you sign on your driver's license. And I told her the story. And I'm like, because you take all this time to vote and you want your vote to count. So I will just put it out there to any parents that are listening to pass that along to their young voters. Because like Kyle said, you're right. The kids do not check email, and they're certainly not checking the mail. So it's helpful for parents to remind us, this is for real. Like, your vote will not count if you don't take the time to put your appropriate signature on there. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions about the election side of the auditor's responsibilities, and particularly this election? Councilmember Cruver.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know what more you're going to discuss, but I'm just curious on how people can do bad things, in the sense if someone is in a bad relationship or has ended a relationship and the post office supposedly makes a change of address. What is the process to verify? I'm in the sense that there is a separation and one of the parties of the formerly married situation goes to the post office and changes the address of the spouse to his home, then what?
I think what's important is voters should go to votewa.gov, and like anything you do annually when you're doing maintenance, is to check your voter registration and make sure it's up to date. We do rely on the post office, and we will change the data if the post office has it, and we can switch it back, but we need the voter to tell us that.
Well, because I'm concerned that the post office did it without, because the person who was voting didn't make the change. Somebody else did. And so that wasn't verified in that venue. And I'm just concerned with how these things could.
Yeah, with that voter in particular, I've already emailed the post office and asked, because the voter was also, if we're talking about the same person who called me earlier, yes, I asked the post office that follow-up. And we have a great relationship with our post office. We actually talk to them before every single election, our postal representatives, because they're local. I mean, they're right here in Tacoma, at the Tacoma plant. We pick up our mail from them every day. And anytime we have weird postal issues, we reach out to them and they run those down pretty quickly to try and find out what happened.
So would they have a copy of the form that was filled out to make that change on hand?
Usually it's on email, and they'll try to find it. I don't know the post office's record keeping. I know my record keeping.
And do you confirm with post offices that they have completely searched their premises for ballots? I understand there were several hundred in Spokane that, oops.
Yeah. So the post office, by federal law, or by their own mandate, has required that they do an election night sweep of every facility, which is something we encourage and is very good. We have additional days in Washington State. As long as the ballot is postmarked by Election Day, we can count it up until the day before certification. So that's actually 20 days in Washington that we can keep getting ballots.
Because one of the other issues was a post office sent their mail somewhere else, and it was like 5 days before it would get postmarked.
For incoming or outgoing, I think what we like to recommend, especially when you get this close to Election Day, is if you're going to take it to the post office, you want to make sure you're getting the postmark on it. But that's why we have our 51 drop boxes throughout Pierce County. That's what we like to encourage people to use. You're welcome to use the post office, but your tax dollars are being used on those drop boxes, and I think that's the best remedy.
And then I'm also concerned, I don't know that you have any authority in it, but the push to get somebody registered when someone was telling me their sibling was registered without his knowledge, or he didn't realize it was happening. If somebody doesn't want to be registered, that they should make the effort to do it rather than, oh, hey, do this.
The laws in Washington have been updated very recently that really scoop a lot of people into registration. We have an automatic voter registration law that if you get an enhanced license, you're going to be registered, whether you want to or not to be. So then we will mail you a letter, and then you have to tell us, take me off the rolls. It's kind of a change. Additionally, if you get a license, we're going to automatically, if you get a non-enhanced, you're automatically registered, and you can opt out at the moment. So the legislature has gone a way in which to make it very easy to get registered, and a lot of people will get onto the rolls because of that.
Interesting. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Vice Chair Campbell.
Thank you. And expanding a little bit on some of the questions of Councilmember Krueger, and I know there was work done on this a few years ago, but don't know where it's at. If someone's fleeing a domestic violence situation, they left home, but their ballot had been received at their house, but they're not going to go back to their house to get it. I understand that there are ways that they can come into the office and still find a way to get that counted without having to expose where they're staying.
Yeah, we have the address confidentiality program in this state. So if you're in one of those relationships, or we even have some elected officials across the state, some of them work in this building, get into that program. You have to get registered. It's a little minimal paperwork, and then your ballot will, your address won't be public at that point. So we encourage people in those relationships to reach out to us, and we can get you enrolled in the address confidentiality program, and they can kind of prevent that in the future and get you off the rolls.
That's the name of it I was looking for.
You're off the public rolls, but you're still legally allowed to vote.
And then secondarily, just remind us again, people with disabilities, perhaps visual or physical disabilities, what you're doing to accommodate.
Yeah, well, some of the great things we've done is put in that sidewalk in front of our office several years ago that helped people from the bus be able to actually use a sidewalk to get to our office. Before, you kind of had to roll in the middle of the road. So if you come to our office, we have machines for people that have tactile devices, and you can use it for people who have seeing issues or mobility issues, and then it can print off the ballot for you. It's essentially an electronic pencil. So those are available at our office for the entire 18-day voting period, and those are some of the great options we have available to people who need them.
Thank you for all your work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Madam Auditor, before you go on, can you remind the public the hours there's someone at your office off of South 36th Street to answer any questions?
We have our voting center will shift at some point.
Yeah, so until Friday, we're open from 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. Saturday at our Pierce County Election Center, we're going to be open from 10 to 4. And then on Monday and Tuesday, we're going to shift to the annex, and it's going to be 8:30 to 6 on Monday, and 8:30 to 8 p.m. on Election Day.
There's someone there, and there's also someone staffing your phone line.
All those,
Many someone.
lots of people on the phones, yes. We've all had to jump on the phones lately to try to answer a lot of questions, and we're glad that people are asking them.
253-798-VOTE. 253-798-VOTE. Someone wants, during those hours that you listed, someone will pick up the phone, answer their question, and problem solve for the voter.
And you can email us at elections@piercecountywa.gov as well. Elections@piercecountywa.gov. We can help you out there too.
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely amazing customer service team.
You have some other updates for us.
I did. I wanted to briefly talk about the Opioid Abatement Council. By way of reminder, the Opioid Abatement Council is a grouping of 10 cities and the county's Human Services Department, and these are the folks that are authorized to spend a portion of the state's opioid settlement dollars. The OAC currently meets twice each year, and most jurisdictions are still in the planning phase with their funds, so we haven't seen a lot of activity yet. Several cities are pooling some of their funds with the county, and those agreements are currently being finalized. It's been a little hard for the jurisdictions to plan because so many of the settlements are still in flux. For example, the U.S. Supreme Court rejected Purdue Pharma's settlement in July, and that case is currently under an injunction until this Friday, November 1st. And so there's quite a bit of money tied up in future settlements and not really entirely sure how long that is going to take. I did check in with Director Heather Moss, and so far the county itself has received $9 million in settlement dollars. However, just to note that Human Services does receive other opioid-related funds that aren't tracked by the state or the OAC, and so there may be times when you see an OAC report and a county Human Services report and the numbers won't match, and so that's why. She also wanted me to mention that Human Services staff are presenting the Behavioral Health Improvement Plan update and the county's opioid plan to your committee on November 5th. That's coming right up. And the plans will then be up for council approval on December 17th. That's it for that. I also wanted to talk a bit about our statewide license plate shortage. I don't know if you've had this experience, but you've been sitting in traffic and you notice a lot of these paper temporary plates on the car in front of you, or you've been impacted by trying to get a license plate and you've been issued a temporary and then another temporary and another temporary. And I apologize for all of that. It is a statewide issue. We've been dealing with it most of the year. It's currently impacting 25 of the 39 counties. But Pierce County has been hit pretty fiercely, and it's been particularly hard on our licensing subagents. I don't know if you know, but we have, my office oversees 10 subagents throughout the county, for example, Lakewood Licensing in my hometown. Parkland Licensing has been really hard hit. They're located near PLU. They're our busiest subagent of all 10 in the county. They have high dealer and walk-in volume. Just since March, they've had 109,000 transactions, which is a lot. The problem with temporaries, as I'm hearing the discussion, is that requires continued contact with the customer. The customer has to come in, they've got to be called or texted or emailed. There are, in some cases, Parkland has had to talk to a customer about what should have been taken care of in a single transaction 7 different times. And that is not only incredibly frustrating for the customer, it's incredibly time-consuming, and it costs money for the subagent because what their fee was based on a single transaction, and they've just put 7 transactions into it. And so it has been very difficult, and the state has been trying to remedy the situation, but the resolution wasn't coming along as quickly as some of us in the Auditors Association would have liked, particularly in Pierce County. So my staff and I have been working with the Auditors Association to escalate the issue. And the association recently testified in front of the Senate Transportation Committee. And I'm happy to report that in our pre-meeting for that testimony with DOL, Department of Licensing, and Correctional Industries, we were able to obtain an additional plate order of 170,000 standard license plates. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but we have been asking for this additional order for about 6 months. And so the fact that we were able to get that on the books, we are hundreds of thousands of plates behind across the state. And it's been a very difficult situation. But we hope that now we hope that the message has been received that these plate orders should take priority because of all the impact on the customers and our staff. And then lastly, I wanted to just briefly mention some administrative changes. In 2025, the Auditor's Office will continue to see administrative and organizational changes. My longtime Chief Deputy Auditor will retire in the spring, which will leave the office with a very large knowledge, skill, and experience gap, and that will be hard to fill. The deputy serves at the pleasure of the elected auditor, but the role it fills are essential operations. And this is a major disconnect, particularly since as an elected official, it will be hard for me to fill an at-will position so far into my term. I'm one of the many departments who requested an FTE during this supplemental budget process, and I apologize for that. As a former city legislator who's been through the biennial budget process before, I know what the interim budget process is for. It is not for a lot of ongoing FTE responsibilities. But given the timing of the retirement and all of the other initiatives that we are trying to take on in the auditor's office, it was extremely difficult for me to wait until the biennial. And so I look forward to working with you as the supplemental budget process plays out. That's my presentation. Let me know if you have any other questions.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the auditor about other functions of her office? I don't see any. Your staff is working really hard, including this weekend. Thank you for the great customer service and the safe, secure, reliable elections that you and your team are known for. But you also remind us of the many important functions in addition to elections that you're responsible for the people of Pierce County. So thank you for the update.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we're on to Section 8 resolutions. We have 6 resolutions before us. First up is Resolution 2024-221. Councilmember Herrera for a motion, please.
Chair, I move proposal number R2024-221.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2024-221. Madam Clerk, please read the title into the record.
Proposal number R 2024-221, a resolution of the Pierce County Council granting the Pierce County Executive authority to execute an agreement titled Interlocal Agreement between Pierce County and the City of Fircrest for the provision of specialized law enforcement services.
Last line.
Website.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly, we're going to ask you to do a briefing on this and the subsequent proposals all in once because they're all substantially the same. And then we will take public hearings on them one by one. So, Ms. Kelly, to brief.
Thank you, Chair Mello and council members. For the record, Andrea Kelly, council staff. The ILAs that are before you today for final action, as you've indicated, are substantially the same. They propose, purpose of the ILAs is for the county to provide towns and cities with specialized law enforcement services by and through our sheriff's department. The city or town is entering into a contract with the department to take advantage of the expertise that the county is able to provide on a reimbursable basis for certain services. Those services include major crimes investigations, major crimes forensics, internal affairs investigations, and special weapons and tactics, or SWAT team. The agreements establish the rights and duties of the parties in the provision of these services. The following terms are consistent across all proposals before you today. They have a commencement date of November 1st, 2024, with an automatic renewal date of January 1st of every calendar year to extend no later than December 31st, 2029. The parties can negotiate annually for cost increases without having to return to council for approval. The continued consistency across contracts or agreements will establish that the agreements will be located on the Finance Department's interlocal agreement website. The hourly and per incident per capita reimbursement rates are also consistent across contracts. The differences in these contracts or the agreements is that the city or towns were able to individually select services and billing method based on their needs and the resources of the jurisdiction, which is contained in Exhibit A. In Exhibit B of the ILA interlocal agreements establish protocols for the specialized law enforcement services, establishing command, media relations, duty to or authority to mobilize, and then conclusion of services. All of the proposals before you today did receive a due pass recommendation at Rules and Ops on October 21st.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Thank you for your staff work on all of these. I'd like to open it up to our Sheriff's Department representative, Chief of Staff Lauren Wallen, to see if you have anything to add on behalf of the department. Thank you for being so patient during this meeting.
Good evening. Again, I'm Lauren Wallen. I'm with the Sheriff's Department. I'm Chief of Staff. First, I just want to thank you all for your time. I'm truly humbled to be here and looking at all of the other items that were on the important meeting agenda for today. And to be able to be here to share the work that we have. I mean, following up with the proclamation for recognizing the great work of the tribe, and then also hearing important things about election security. I'm truly blessed to be here today, and I want to thank you all for your time and for your staff members' time towards this project in particular. This was a very, very important project we've been working on for about 3 years at the Sheriff's Department. In taking that deep dive in our interlocal agreements, our interagency agreements, and also our MOUs, we're proud to be here today to have this be facing final consideration by all of you, and also really proud as I looked over the sponsorship for these different ILAs and to see across the board Councilmember Denson, Councilmember Herrera, Councilmember Morell, Councilmember Krueger, all signing on in support of these and recognizing the benefit that this has countywide in supporting our cities and towns when they're facing major, major public safety emergencies. So I want to thank each of you for your support and your engagement, and again for your staff time in this. They've just done a tremendous amount of work in supporting this. So I just want to again pass along that thank you, and also say that I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for our staff or the Sheriff's Department before we open up for a public hearing? Councilmember Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. I thought about asking at Rules this morning, but thought I would ask today just for public. When they see all these cities and towns entering into agreement, this is not for basic patrol services. This is for extraordinary services. They're not just going to hang out and rest in as a deputy.
Correct. This is when we use that term specialized law enforcement services. What we're really talking about is those major emergencies that would occur in a city or town that perhaps doesn't have homicide detectives, doesn't have forensics, and certainly the types of equipment and training that we have, that doesn't have a SWAT team or a dive team or a bomb squad, that we can provide that for them. So while these services are provided by the deputies and detectives and forensics investigators that work for the Sheriff's Department, this is not going to be part of your regular policing duties. This, again, is those emergency type scenarios. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Morell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To follow up on the questions, just for my information and the public's information, Ms. Kelly said that there were two billing methods. One, I assume, is the hourly rate, and the other one is the per capita.
Correct. So there's essentially 3 different billing rates that the cities and towns can choose from. It's an hourly rate, a per capita rate, or a per incident rate. The per incident rate is only available if the SWAT team was going to be called out. And those are for cities that essentially use our SWAT team as a backup for whatever they might have within their own city or town to provide that. So some of them have what are called tactical response teams, where they can handle a certain level of threat or emergency, but those much higher level of kind of threat to the community and the safety of the individuals involved, that's when they need to utilize the SWAT team. So for the hourly rate, those would be things that we would keep track of, the hours, the number of our either deputies or detectives or forensics investigators that are out at that scene. We would keep very close monitoring, keep track of how many are there, what their hours are that are dedicated specifically to this incident, and then we would bill that municipality after the incident has occurred. The other, which a lot of are really small cities and towns that they utilize, is the per capita rate. And they have to select that at this time in entering into the interlocal agreement. You can't have the incident happen and then go, ooh, which one's going to be a better deal? That they would select the per capita in advance and that they would pay for that up front. So we look at what their population numbers are, utilizing the State Office of Financial Management. We use their numbers, and we determine a per capita rate that they would pay in advance for each of those services that they've selected. That per capita rate takes into account things like our expenses for not only for salary and benefits for the officers involved in that, also things as we look at risk management and insurance costs as well.
Okay, and then just to follow up on the per capita, that's a lot of the small jurisdictions. What if they had multiple incidences and it exceeded the per capita?
There is a potential that there would be multiple incidents that would occur within that year, or they could be an incident that is a homicide that takes a small amount of time, an incident that takes a significant amount of time in staffing, just the same as they could have one SWAT call out or they could have quite a few. So those are factors that we take into consideration when making these calculations for what those charges would be. I will say that these small cities and towns, they tend to have those major incidents, fortunately, very rarely. We're talking about cities and towns that might have one homicide every 10 years, every 15 years. So it's really like kind of purchasing an insurance policy, very similar to how you would do for your car insurance or your homeowner's insurance. So fortunately, it is pretty rare that that would happen. But if they did have multiple incidents, that would all be covered underneath that. But then they would also have additional years where they would have no call outs for services. So they tend to kind of keep themselves in check and balance.
And just to reiterate what you just said, if they don't have any incidences, it's not a carry forward. It's the capita is per year,
Correct.
Whether they have an incident or not. And then the next year, it's another per capita rate. Okay.
That is correct. There's no credits or carryover.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? I don't see any. Thank you. This is a public hearing on this interlocal agreement with the City of Faircrest and Pierce County for law enforcement services. There's no member of the public in council chambers. Mr. Weinsberg, anybody in our Zoom room?
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comment on proposal number R2024-221, press the raise hand icon on Zoom or star 9 on your telephone keypad. And it looks like at this time we have two hands, Mr. Chair. First number, ending in 874. Please state your name for the record.
Good afternoon, Chair Mall. Can you answer me?
Mr. Wick, I believe that's you. You're very faint.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you for letting me know that. This is a question. I know I'm directing the question to you, Chair Mello. That's your policy, but it's really from Ms. Wallen. So this interlocal agreement, my understanding from the presentation, it's where local towns can, access Pierce County Sheriff's Department specialized services. And one of the things I think she said was internal affairs investigations was one of those. So my question for Ms. Wallen is, what mechanisms are in place for Pierce County when they need, the Pierce County Sheriff's Department, when they need to go outside the Pierce County Sheriff's Department for an internal affairs investigation because of a conflict of interest? So it's kind of a question I have. I know it's not a Q&A, but I was hoping she might be able to answer that. So thank you, Chair Mello.
Thank you.
Next, we have phone number ending in 874. It showed up twice. Next, we have Nancy. Please state your name for the record.
Hi, My name's Nancy, and I definitely want to say ditto to what that dude just said about the Pierce County needing some extra help because, as you guys should be aware by now, medical calls don't get investigated by police, and then when the people die, it becomes an uninvestigated murder that the detectives refuse to get the video footage from the businesses that have reached out multiple times asking for the video, or asking to be able to send the police the video footage of the people that probably had something to do with the murder. And so if Pierce County, Tacoma can't figure out their detective situation to handle, the murders that are going uninvestigated here now, I don't see how we can loan out our detectives to anybody else. It just seems kind of unfair to promise them something that isn't there, especially when, we already promised people that live here those services and they're not getting them, even though they have proof that the crime was committed and video evidence from a business of the people and stuff. So I don't know. I wouldn't be promising things that we can't keep, And I'd also like to say that I read the interlocal agreement, and nowhere in it does it mention South Sound 911 being the dispatch service. It does mention South Sound 911 doing the records and the transfers and a whole bunch of other things, but the dispatching and the choosing between if it's medical aid or police response, it does not mention that is one of South Sound's duties, and it also does not mention the fee that South Sound is charging, which you can find on their website down in the very tiny links on the left-hand side of the screen. But nobody does that, except for me, probably. So yeah, that's it. I just, you don't make promises you can't keep. I thought that was something we learned in elementary school. So if we can't send emails to business owners to get the evidence for a murder, then we probably shouldn't promise our whole SWAT team to somewhere. Just saying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have phone number ending in 874. We had 075. Now we have 874. Please state it for the record. We did that one. Okay, disregard. And at this time, we have no other hands, Chair.
We're going to close the public hearing, bring it back to the council. Ms. Wallen, can you confirm for the council, is Internal Affairs one of those specialized services that we're allowing here through this interlocal agreement?
In regards to the question about internal affairs, and if there, I believe that the question that was coming from the constituent was about who could provide internal affairs services for the sheriff's department. So these agreements are specific to the sheriff's department providing those services to other cities and towns upon request from them. We certainly have had circumstances throughout my 20-plus year career where we've had internal affairs investigations within our own department that we have reached out to other cities and towns, other municipalities to provide some type of assistance with that. That could be something that is potentially criminal in nature. That could be something that is conduct or policy related. So those things do occur. That's not something that's within this scope of these interlocal agreements, as these are related to us providing that service for other cities and towns. But there are mechanisms in place where if the sheriff's department wanted to go outside, that we could request that from other municipalities throughout the state.
We're talking about SWAT and search and rescue and canine services and those sorts of things. We're not talking about providing internal affairs services for Crest and other communities, correct?
That is within these ILAs, does cover that. It is one of the items that can be selected is internal affairs.
It is a service.
It is, correct.
Thank you. So we close the public hearing. Are there any remarks by council members? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on Resolution 2024-221?
Councilmember Denson. Aye. Councilmember Herrera.
Aye.
Councilmember Hitchin.
Aye.
Councilmember Morrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Krueger.
Aye.
Councilmember Mello.
Aye.
The result of the roll call vote is 7 ayes and 0 nays.
On a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays, the resolution is adopted. We're at item number 2, Resolution 2024-222. Councilmember Denson for a motion.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I move proposal number R 2024-222. The, with a do pass recommendation, is that right? Or how do I say it?
We're on a committee.
I know, but I'm supposed to say something now.
To be
I know.
adopted?
To be adopted, thank you.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2024-222. Madam Clerk, please read the title into the record.
Proposal number R 2024-222, a resolution of the Pierce County Council granting the Pierce County Executive authority to execute an agreement titled Interlocal Agreement between Pierce County and the City of Gig Harbor for the provision of specialized law enforcement services.
Last line.
Website.
Thank you. All of these interlocal agreements are substantially the same, just with different communities, in this case, Gig Harbor. So I'm not going to call on our staff unless they flag me that there's something really substantive that they want to point out for our benefit or the community's benefit. They're not. So we're going to go right to a public hearing. This is a public hearing on this agreement with the City of Gig Harbor for the provision of specialized law enforcement services. Any member of the public wish to provide comment? Mr. Weinsbury, we're going to go straight to you in the Zoom room.
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comment on proposal number R 2024-222, press the raise hand icon on Zoom or star 9 on your telephone keypad. And there are no hands at this time, Chair.
Seeing no hands, we're going to close the public hearing, bring it back to the council. Are there final remarks by council members? Not seeing any. We're going to take a vote on the adoption of Resolution 2024-222. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Herrera.
Aye.
Councilmember Hitchin.
Aye.
Councilmember Morrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Kruver.
Aye.
Councilmember Denson.
Aye.
Councilmember Mello.
Aye.
The result of the roll call vote is 7 ayes and 0 nays.
On a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays, the resolution is adopted. We're at item number 3. It's been a long day. We have Resolution 2024-223 before us. Councilmember Denson for a motion.
All right, I'm ready now. I move that we approve proposal number R 2024-223.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2024-223. Madam Clerk, please read the title.
Proposal number R 2024-223, a resolution of the Pierce County Council granting the Pierce County Executive authority to execute an agreement titled Interlocal Agreement between Pierce County and the City of Ruston for the provision of specialized law enforcement services, terminating any prior agreement between
Last line.
Website.
Thank you. Our staff doesn't have anything to add. This is an agreement with the City of Ruston, as noted by the title. There's no members of the public. We're opening up for a public hearing. There's no members of the public here in council chambers. Mr. Weinsbury, anybody in the Zoom room?
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comment on proposal number R 2024-223, press the raise hand icon on Zoom or star 9 on your telephone keypad. And I see no hands at this time, Chair.
We're going to close the public hearing, bring it back to the council. Are there final remarks by council members? Not seeing any. The vote is on the adoption of Resolution 2024-223. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Hitchin.
Aye.
Councilmember Morrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Kruver.
Aye.
Councilmember Denson.
Aye.
Councilmember Herrera.
Aye.
Councilmember Mello.
Aye.
The result of the roll call vote is 7 ayes and 0 nays.
On a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays, the resolution is adopted. We're at item number 4, Resolution 2024-224. Councilmember Kruver for a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move Resolution 2024-224 for approval.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2024-224. Madam Clerk, please read the title.
Proposal number R 2024-224, a resolution of the Pierce County Council granting the Pierce County Executive authority to execute an agreement titled Interlocal Agreement between Pierce County and Town of Eatonville for the provision of specialized law enforcement services.
Last line.
Website.
Thank you. No further comments by our staff. We've briefed on all of these, including this one. We're going to open up for a public hearing. There's no members of the public here in council chambers. Mr. Weinsbury, anybody in the Zoom room?
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comment on proposal number R 2024-224, press the raise hand icon on Zoom or star 9 on your telephone keypad. And still no hands at this time, Chair.
With no hands, we're closing the public hearing. Bring it back to the council. Are there final remarks by council members? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on the approval of Resolution 2024-224?
Councilmember Morrell,
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell,
Aye.
Councilmember Krueger,
Aye.
Councilmember Denson,
Aye.
Councilmember Herrera,
Aye.
Councilmember Hitchin,
Aye.
Councilmember Mello.
Aye.
The results of the roll call vote is 7 ayes and 0 nays.
On a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays, the resolution is adopted. We're at item number 5, Resolution 2024-225. Councilmember Krueger for a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move proposal resolution 2024-225.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2024-225. Madam Clerk, please read the title.
Proposal number R 2024-225, a resolution of the Pierce County Council granting the Pierce County Executive authority to execute an agreement titled Interlocal Agreement between Pierce County and the City of Roy for the provision of specialized law enforcement services.
Last line, please.
Website.
Thank you. We're going to open up for a public hearing on this interlocal agreement with the City of Roy and Pierce County for law enforcement services. Again, no members of the public in chambers. Mr. Weinsberry, anybody in the Zoom room?
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comment on proposal number R 2024-225, press the raise hand icon on Zoom or *9 on your telephone keypad. And we see no hands at this time, Chair.
Seeing no hands, we're closing the public hearing. Bring it back to the council. Are there final remarks by council members? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the approval of Resolution 2024-225.
Councilmember Campbell,
Aye.
Councilmember Krueger,
Aye.
Councilmember Denson,
Aye.
Councilmember Herrera,
Aye.
Councilmember Hitchin,
Aye.
Councilmember Morrell,
Aye.
Councilmember Mello.
Aye.
The results of the roll call vote is 7 ayes and 0 nays.
On a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays, the resolution is adopted. Our final resolution is Resolution 2024-226. Councilmember Morrell for a motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move that we consider, that we approve, and that we adopt Resolution R 2024-226.
And I would consider and would second that.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2024-226. Madam Clerk, please read the title into the record.
Proposal number R 2024-226, a resolution of the Pierce County Council granting the Pierce County Executive authority to execute an agreement titled Interlocal Agreement between Pierce County and the Town of South Prairie for the provision of specialized law enforcement services.
Last line.
Agreement website.
Thank you. Not seeing any hands by questions from my colleagues, so we're going to go straight to a public hearing. There's no members of the public in council chambers. Mr. Weinsberry, anybody in the Zoom room?
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comment on proposal number R 2024-226, press the raise hand icon on Zoom or *9 on your telephone keypad. And there are no hands at this time, Chair.
With no hands, we're closing the public hearing, bring it back to the council. Any final remarks by council members? Not seeing any, we're going to take a vote on the adoption of Resolution 2024-226. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Krueger,
Aye.
Councilmember Denson,
Aye.
Councilmember Herrera,
Aye.
Councilmember Hitchin,
Aye.
Councilmember Morrell,
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell,
Aye.
Councilmember Mello.
Aye.
The results of the roll call vote is 7 ayes and 0 nays.
On a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays, the resolution is adopted. There are no ordinances on our agenda. Vice Chair Kimball.
Chair, I was wondering if you'd be willing to entertain an item of other business. I know we have a member who needs to leave. And
Is there any objection to moving to other business? Not seeing any. Vice Chair Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. I was very moved by the, we had more than just a proclamation earlier on Native American and Alaskan Heritage Month. We had a full conversation. And Puyallup Tribal Council member Annette Bryant asked why we didn't have a Puyallup tribal flag flying. And so I would like to make a motion that for the month of November, to honor Native American and Alaskan Native Month, that we post the Puyallup tribal flag in council chambers.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we post the Puyallup tribe flag in council chambers. I would just note our rules of procedure note that these decisions are made by the body's Rules and Operations Committee. I'm not trying to be a bureaucrat here. I'm just trying to point out what our adopted rules of procedure are. I will support the spirit of the motion and the motion. Maybe if the maker of the motion might be willing to direct the Rules and Operations Committee to take this up at its next meeting to get it on the agenda properly and follow our own rules of procedure and set it in motion. That's just what our rules of procedures say, just to remind us.
Okay. Thank you. So you're going to rule that out of order, I take it?
Not because I want to.
No. That takes it off table so I can make another motion.
Yes. Okay. So the motion's ruled out of order because of our established rules of procedure. Ms. Long, do you want to correct me?
Nope. All right. Then, Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we direct the Rules Committee to take up at their next meeting flying the Puyallup tribal flag for the month of November in honor of Native American and Alaskan Heritage Month.
It's been properly moved and seconded that the council directs the Rules and Operations Committee to take up as an action item at its next meeting flying the Puyallup tribe flag in our council chambers for the month of November. That is the motion.
Yes.
Thank you for allowing us to follow our own rules of procedure here. Any questions or comments on the motion in front of us to direct the Rules and Operations Committee to take up this action item of flying the Puyallup tribal flag in council chambers in the month of November? Councilmember Krueger.
Thank you, Chair. Not that I'm trying to be bureaucratic either, but isn't that being discriminatory? I believe we have 4 or 5 that are recognized tribes, and that resolution was universal, I thought.
I would suggest this get debated at the Rules and Operations Committee.
Okay. That's kind of my point on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other remarks about the motion in front of us? Again, the motion in front of us is to direct the Rules and Operations Committee to take up an action item to fly the Puyallup tribe flag here in council chambers in the month of November, which is Native American and Alaskan Heritage Month that we just proclaimed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's adopted. We're back to Section 10, Community Forum. Community Forum is an opportunity for members of the public to address the council on any topic that is of significance to or affecting Pierce County government and that did not appear for final action on today's agenda. There is a 3-minute time limit. Please state your name if you would like it on the record. And also please address all your comments to the chair. We usually start with those in chambers. There are none still. So we're going to go right to the Zoom room, Mr. Weinsbury.
Yes, sir. For any members of the public who wish to provide comment, press the raise hand icon on Zoom or *9 on your telephone keypad. And it looks like we have one hand at this time, ending 874. Mr. Chair, please state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chair Mello. This is Thomas Wick again. Before you start my 3-minute clock, I would like to address a concern that I was left with an open mic for, I think, a couple minutes. And that could have proved very problematic. I could have said something confidential to my wife, for example, and it would have been broadcasted out throughout your network. And so anyway, that's never happened before, and I was asked to mute myself, and that's never happened before, and I've called in many, many, many times. So I was wondering if you could address that when I'm done with my 3-minute input here. I'd appreciate that. I just want to, Chair Mello, I don't know if my emails and the attachments are making it to you and the council and to leadership. I sent one out and I made multiple voicemails for leadership. One of those people was the interim building official. I believe it's Ms. Bennon. And so I asked them, I contacted like 3 people, Ms. Carlo, Ms. Bennon, I think it was Ms. Tatotson. I said, hey, I really need to talk to somebody before 3 p.m. today, which is when the council meeting starts. I've got questions about submittal requirements, code compliance, permits, My situation is not standard, it's not cookie cutter, so they can't just refer me into their online permitting website for guidance. So at this juncture, I'm not getting any communication from staff or leadership. And I find it hard to believe that the council, you, Ms. Benson, are finding this acceptable. I don't think you do. But I'm not quite sure what my pathway forward is. Permits are required, but to acquire the permits, it requires communication with planning and public works. And so I'm not getting any, they've refused to do so. So it puts us in a very difficult legal playing field, so to speak. So I'm asking you, Chair Mello and Ms. Benson, to reach out to Planning and Public Works and say, contact this guy and answer his questions. Is that something that the council, that you could do for me? That's why I'm calling tonight. And so I was hoping you might be able to do that for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
And at this time, I see no other hands, Mr. Chair.
With no other hands, we're going to close the community forum portion of our meeting. We're back to item number 11, other business and announcements. Is there any other business or announcements by council members? Councilmember Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. Next week we'll be recognizing Veterans Day, but it's one day late for the Joint Operation Greenlight, where we ask people to, in their businesses and their homes, display green light so people know that you recognize the sacrifice of our veterans. And so it's actually for the United States through NACO, the National Association of County, November 4th, and our proclamation is on November 5th. So we're just one day off. So I thought I would just mention tonight, if you have a green light or want to participate the entire week or the entire month, November 4th is the first date. So 4th through 11th, green lights for veterans. So they feel a little appreciated just by seeing a light in your window. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Hitchin. Great symbol. Any other business or announcements by other members? Not seeing any. Ms. Long, any other business for council?
There is none this evening. Thank you.
With no other business before the Pierce County Council, we are adjourned.